I just realized I was sitting here waiting to see if you unmuted, but I figured you might be waiting on me. So if you can hear me, I'm here. Glad you made it. And yeah, hopefully technology will treat us right. So I had an idea that it auto mutes you when you drop in. If you hang up and then come back in, it shouldn't auto mute you. I turned that off for this meeting. So if it's not letting you do that, then maybe leaving, coming back, we'll figure it out. Hey, sounds like you made it.
There we go. How's this sounding?
Hey, just fine, just fine. Sounds good.
Perfect, perfect. All right, how you doing today, Jonathan?
Doing just fine, man. Having a great time.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, dude, I was super excited to get you on the show and talk about what you do. There's a lot of overlap from the weirdly the mind reading world and your
Mm,
world. So I'm really looking forward to digging in.
I, I love it. I'm all ears, and I was checking that out about what you do, and and that is just something. As a kid, I've always loved magic. I've always loved big shows and just anything really over the top. So I'm also really stoked to hear about some of your stories as well.
Dude, right out that's why in the kind of onboarding form when it was just like let's get crazy, I was like, "Yes. All right, let's do this." So, I want to make sure I give you as much time as possible to share your message, and I always like to ask, is there anything that you want me to softball give you a question to highlight a new project or anything else coming up?
No, I think we can just riff back and forth and just keep it as cool and fun as possible.
Sounds dangerously close to a plan. I like it. All right, so to officially start, I'm going to have you introduce yourself. That way you nail it exactly the way that you want it, and then we'll just take it from there.
Awesome. And you want me just to go at any time?
Go for it.
All right, howdy, how we doing? I'm Hunter Ray Barker. I'm the president of the Stunt Players Directory. I've been serving stunt performers who I believe are the film industry's hardest working underdogs and unsung heroes, the greatest storytellers of all time. I am very excited to get down with you guys about that and really fill you in on some crazy stuff.
You know that is a remarkable insight. That it's kind of one of those things that I'm ashamed I never really thought about it because I love stunts. I love big movies where crazy people are doing crazy stuff. And you're right. It's kind of like stunt folk are the people doing the hard work, breaking bones, getting injured on set for everybody else's entertainment. So how in the world did was that something you fell into?
Absolutely, yeah. They are the ones that do the dirty work, without a whole lot of credit, really. And and how I fell into it is just because my family is pretty much all stunt people. My dad's a stuntman. He's been a stuntman for just over 50 years now. He just turned 76 this earlier this month, and I'm 28 years old. My dad broke his back jumping a truck off a bridge in a stunt that actually went completely wrong. The vehicle was not safetied properly, and even in the midst of great danger and being put into the hospital, right when he got out, he was back behind the wheel to do stunts for 50 years
Wow.
after the fact. So it really is the stunt professional really is a rare individual, I'd say. And so about just over 20 years ago, how the stunt directory came about was that, on for a movie or a TV show, the stunt coordinator, which is the director of the stunts, basically, they would put together, their group of stunt men and stunt women. And there really wasn't a way to audition stunt folks like you would an actor, so in the stunt community, we have this term called hustling, and when a stunt person says, "Oh, I'm hustling today," that means that they are literally going down with their headshots and resumes to the set, getting on set and getting themselves in front of the coordinator, which, I mean, from the advertising and marketing and business standpoint, to me, I mean, people just, I mean, their minds just get blown, when they hear that, because I mean, it really is boots on the ground marketing yourself as a business. And
But
so,
Hunter, that will never scale. That'll never work.
yeah. Well, I mean, if you're really trying to scale and do all that, I would say that the stunt industry is probably not the industry for you, because you are the one person, lighting yourself on fire, unless you can, kind of get yourself in the situation, which, where you got, 100 guys, maybe you got 100, stunt doubles of your own, working
Right.
on, maybe you can scale that way. Um, but so basically, my father took that idea and thought, well, why don't we make an advertising directory where stunt people can sign up, we can list what they're doing, list what they're good at, and put them all in a hard copy book. And so that was the birth of the directory, just over 2 decades ago. And about 10 years ago, my father wanted to shut it down. And that, I've always been a geek. I've always just been, the like, the troll under the bridge. I don't
Hmm.
have the balls or the strength that, these stunt performers have. So, and I just thought, well, why instead of shutting it down, why don't we bring it online and bring it, up to speed, and try and and keep it going, because I just, when I heard that, I was like, oh man, I mean, this is the coolest thing ever. And really, when you look at the old directory, I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, you're just going through this yearbook of just the most badass, I mean, just top performers in the world. And and then since then, I feel like I was able to then at least carry on the family business, as a tribute to my father, and as a tribute to the stunt community.
That's cool. That's cool. So, to that point of your dad breaking his back, getting out of the
Mm.
hospital, and going right back, that's right in line with the entertainment world and stage performers, where it's always the show must go on.
Yes.
I often say it's not that the show must go on; it's that I've got to get paid. And if
Yeah.
I'm not on stage hitting my marks, saying my lines, I don't get that paycheck at the end of this. And my bills are still going to be there when I go home. So, you know what? Strap me in. I'm driving. Right? So,
Yeah.
is
Absolutely.
that a big part of kind of what drives that amazing work ethic, is the understanding that you're the one that's got to show up to do the work?
Yes, but it's but I mean, as a stunt performer, I mean, there really is. You need to I mean, like you even just like you just said, you can't really scale these things. So a lot of the things that we might do, in your standard, more conventional business, you really don't get into stunts for the money. And and even just these past couple of weeks, I've been working on a project, interviewing a lot of the different top stunt coordinators, asking them, what are the 5 things that new stunt performers need to know to be successful. And I'm talking to guys that have coordinated all the stunts in Avatar, or Pirates of the Caribbean, or Fast and the Furious. I mean, like, big blockbusters. So it's like these are coming from the top guys. And just the other day, I was speaking with Garrett Warren, who's been a he did Avatar, and he does all of James Cameron's movies, like real big, like big money stuff. And this is I mean, he's one of the top guys. And one of his top 5 things was, you can't do it for the money. You, as a stunt performer, you innately have to have that showmanship. You want to, like, because that is your art. That is what drives it. And inversely, if that really is what is guiding this ship, then you find that you become the best. If you're really in it to be the best, the money then follows. Now, I mean, I completely understand. I mean, especially in the world of entertainment. I mean, it is a very, very difficult industry, no matter where you're at, especially today. Um, and that's something that my partner and I, the one that which we'll get into. We started a marketing agency to create over the top wild stunts for business owners. And and we come from doing music videos and doing little commercials and things like that. And it is a tough business, to keep that rolling. Uh, so yeah, I think it's the best of both worlds. It's you really got to love it, or it's the money will not be there.
Exactly. You have to be professional and pay the bills. However, the mercenary approach is going to run out sooner rather than later. But
Mm-hmm.
it is that absolute life consuming fascination that occupies every single moment of your day that you
Yeah.
need to do it for free anyway. You were like, I don't, even if I weren't a professional, even if this weren't my job, I would be doing this on the side of the road because it's so much fun. It's just
Yeah,
fun that I get paid, and oh, I happen to be the best because I love it, and now I'm getting paid pretty good.
exactly. And I'll even give I mean, a story back from my father. Is he grew up out in Miami. And he went to Mississippi Bible College to become a priest. And while he was in college, he was working at the airport, and he was also fixing cars, doing all odd jobs, doing whatever he could, just to make a buck, but always obsessed with stock car racing, wanted to get into NASCAR, was also really good at driving boats. And, and so that was his thing. But, he didn't, but he was, I mean, he was working all the time, during the day, at night, always working, not doing stunts. And, and finally, he got the odd job to be an extra. And, and he was on, on some show or whatever as background. And, this was, obviously this was way back when, and they asked, who here can, drive a car real good. And that was what started his whole career. And it was only like a month after that, that he got asked to double John Travolta in Grease. And that was when he dropped out of Bible college to become a stuntman. So, I think, but you got to just, he always tells people, it's, you get into stunts, if you're making, I don't know, like, 40, 50 grand doing whatever you're doing, just working a normal job, your first year in stunts, you might end up making, $13,000, so you really just got to keep working. And I think until, I mean, the showman is really called to the stage, yeah, you got to make sure that, you can take care of yourself.
Right, because that is another dimension to it is you're also paying with your physicality, your
Yes.
physical well-being. And if you're just barely scraping by and then you break something, well, that's not just coming out of your paycheck, that's coming out of your body, right? You're paying in flesh there.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And, and, obviously in the world of stunts, injuries do happen quite a bit.
Yep, yep. So what's your background? Have you done a lot of like film stunts and that kind of a thing, or is it kind of more of a you've been a fan of those guys and kind of like the champion to help facilitate careers? What's your story?
Yeah. I was always addicted and obsessed with the storytelling. And, I think that, goes back to like, I mean, just being, a little kid, and we grew up out in, Camarillo, which is, probably it's about like an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of Los Angeles, a more like agricultural town. And I think, being, out there and like as a kid, I'd always just be so fascinated with, dad going into the city and going to Hollywood and like doing all this crazy stuff. I mean, it's like it wouldn't be uncommon to like, at night hear like, someone banging on the door downstairs and like screaming and like mom running downstairs and you're like, oh my God, like what the heck is going on? And my dad would just like enter in with like blood coming out of his face, screaming, and you're like, because you just gone and done like some zombie horror weird thing and has like come in and has tried to, scare the stew out of us. And so I think as a kid, I mean, that sense of like the surreal was always very, very, attractive to me. That's why I loved magic. I loved things that just suspended disbelief and just took me out of the farm, basically. And so anything that felt like larger than, that's why I loved underdogs. I always loved, people that just had different stories. Earlier this year, my icon, her name is Sandy Crisp. This is a woman that, she passed away earlier this year. And she, this woman was she had polio. She suffered from AIDS as well. I mean, like the stick that she had been given in life was just beyond, and like the way in which like doctors couldn't really treat her growing up, her limbs were deformed, and her whole spirit, like I ended up getting to know her as a kid, seeing her online, because she had like one of the first viral videos, and it was like a video of her tap dancing, and it was one of those ones that was kind of hailed as like, this is the most disturbing video you would ever see. I mean, like headlines like that, which obviously like drew me in, because I grew up in a religious family and went to church every Sunday. So seeing something like this, as a story like this as a kid was like, oh my gosh, who is this person? And I was like really drawn to this individual, very quickly becoming like a fan, so it's like, whereas other kids are really into like Superman and Batman, I was into this person. She went by the Goddess Bunny, and she kind of became this, she was a like a cult sensation, with kids who really didn't fit in like all across the world. And so when I ended up moving to Los Angeles, I just by chance ended up meeting her,
Hmm.
became really good friends to her, and she became a subject of a lot of my documentary film work, because I was just so drawn by her story, because her whole personality was just like larger than life. I mean, like from just a mile away, she would have like a karaoke machine like hooked up to her power chair. Like she'd be, going to the liquor store and like singing to the people, like just like so surreal. And you're like, wow. I was always just stunned. And so I just had to give a shout out to the Goddess Bunny there, who's not COVID took her away from us after all the things that she had that she had battled. That was the one that took her. And so I've always loved stories. I've always loved interesting stories, people who've overcome just crazy adversity. And so for me, I always felt the stunt people were champions of that. And in anything I could do to help them tell their stories was something that I always wanted to do. So by my work with the stunt directory, that was a key focus for me. Because a lot of these guys and gals, they are training all the time. They're working on building these amazing skills that a lot of them really don't have the time to then promote those skills and get them in front of the right people. So that takes up the majority of my work there, is helping them do that. We also we ended up started throwing like these really big stunt performer networking events, where we'd bring in like 700 stunt people, get them in front of like the top coordinators where they can meet them. We did this in Los Angeles, we do it in Atlanta. Last year was the first year that we had to shut it down in 10 years, because of COVID. So once things get back to normal, we'll be back on that gravy train. But yeah, I've always loved the events. I've always loved being able to do things kind of for the heck of doing it. We threw a couple years ago, we did like the largest mud wrestle in Southern California, where we had hundreds of stunt people, female wrestlers from like old school glow, wrestlers from back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
wrestlers from like the old Tropicana, like all crazy stuff. So that's kind of where my mind's at.
I love that. I love that. So this is going to be kind of a longer question, but it makes
Uh-huh.
sense, I think, which is one of my mentors told me years ago saying, "Listen, Jonathan, nobody needs a magician, nobody needs a mind reader, nobody needs an entertainer. They need their problems solved.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to go in as the rock star, you're not going to get booked all that often.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're the person who can devote your skill set in the service of helping something bigger,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to have all the work that you could handle." So it was interesting to me to see your path from stunt to promoter and marketing to help other people get their message out. So walk me
Yeah.
through how that idea dawned on you from being the rock star to, you know what, I bet people would pay us money to be awesome for them. So how'd you put two and two together?
That's extremely insightful, because I think there's, a lot of folks who, come from the world of entertainment, and that's what it is, is entertainment. And then you come to find that like, you put a lot of energy and time into creating, whether it's performances or events or shows, whatever it is that you're really doing in that world, you come to find that, the buck or really lack of a buck, kind of
Mm-hmm.
stops. And because just like you said, it doesn't it doesn't really accomplish what we would consider to be a marketing goal. In a case in point, even like when we did the big mud wrestle, which was something I just wanted to do just for the heck of it. It's like, great. It's like, events are fun, and you can definitely, throw an event and get a lot of people, there. And then that will quickly be forgotten, and it's on to the next thing. So how can you create something that is so that's the seed that was planted, because we would do all these interesting things, all the time, really just to kind of, light people up. But then you're like, all right, well, what is this really accomplishing? How can this help, a brand or a business or someone else, who is maybe interested in that kind of like, electrifying, as you say, sort of like rock star sort of feel, by creating something cool. But we need it to accomplish a goal. And so what happened was, last year, really just being, locked in, my place, just as everything was shutting down and everyone was all, just scared to death.
Mm-hmm.
I really became obsessed with how to create the perfect headline. And I spent just my days, studying copy. How do you create something that draws attention and commands people's attention? Um, and and so as I was doing that, really just for fun, I then attached it to thinking, well, if we were able to take this idea and then create an event based around like a headline that is proven to work, then I think we can get like a whole lot of traffic to something. And then if we take that and then attach it to a marketing goal, it would be just interesting to see the results. Like, so now for the first time, like, why don't we create an event based on this proven like headline formula that's just been done time and time and time again, where on paper it feels organic and it feels like it's just just it dropped out of the sky, but really is not. And so I remember I was out in visiting my mom and dad in Georgia, and I was, and then it kind of hit me. We were sitting at like a Mexican restaurant, eating, and I was like, well, what if I, what if I were to spend 24 hours in a tub of bean dip, and what we did, why don't we have that be the headline? Man spends 24 hours in a tub of bean dip, and it initially started off as in barbecue sauce. I think was like the first scratch idea. And we were kind of like playing with that, for a little while, and thinking, that might be kind of interesting to see if we can kind of get some hype around that, see if we can accomplish, a goal here. And it was at the same time, that we had heard, that back here in California, over here in Chatsworth, which is where I live. There's this restaurant, Los Toros, and this is, another Mexican restaurant. Me and my family have been going here like forever, and they're very, very popular in the neighborhood. Like big, family restaurant. Just the type of restaurant that me, my parents, and my two sisters would go to all the time for special occasions. So it was always like, this was always the spot, like birthdays, holidays, whatever it was, you name it, we would go to Los Toros, and they have this like killer bean dip, like this addicting bean dip. Everyone here knows the bean dip. And and then I saw online that they were struggling due to COVID, and people here in the neighborhood were putting up GoFundMe's, trying to do different things just to kind of get the word out, that Los Toros needs our help right now. And so I saw that, and I called the owner, Nick, and just presented the idea and said, Nick, we'd like to try something here. We and so again, we did not go in saying, that this is a proven, this was our first test, really, to see if we can create one of these outrageous, ridiculous events based on the headline to drive the traffic and do all that stuff. And he was like, he was like, yeah, would you be okay with, drinking a margarita in the tub? And I was like, of course, absolutely, let's do it.
I'm not just
So
okay with it, I prefer it.
yeah, of course, let's do it. Let's plug the margaritas too. And so then what happened was, so I built the landing page for them, built the flyer for them, and we started working with the messaging, where um because it is popular when you're trying to drum up some traffic for a restaurant, that people will do like giveaways, they'll do
Mm-hmm.
little contests and things like that. And my thinking is always like, everyone's trying to advertise something, everyone's trying to market, everyone's trying to promote, and what ends up happening is like, folks will kind of start doing the same thing, and we start seeing the same thing over and over and over again, and it loses that special quality, or like, what we would say is that surreal quality, the thing, like the magic of seeing something that's far out, completely unique and different for the very first time, that gets us so excited to want to, that stops our day to kind of pay attention to whatever the heck that thing is, just in the same way that like magic or stunts, things of that nature do. And so, because my mind's like, how do we do that for business owners? How do we do it, to draw attention to what they're doing? So we have to do something that's out of the ordinary. So even when it came to like the giveaway, because I was like, all right, like we want to, we're doing this stunt, but we really want to like blow up your guys' email list. We want to market this to people like local in the community. We want to get as many people as we can subscribe to this flyer, so we're like, so back in the day it would have been like, all right, we're doing an event, come, and we won't know who you are at the end of, at the end of this. Um and and it was like every single day we were seeing like hundreds of people opting into this, and it was like, it was just beyond like any other just standard giveaway promotion, just your standard marketing thing that we would have had done before for other businesses. It's like, once we attached a truly far out, outrageous story to it, it's like the results we saw just skyrocketed.
Right.
And
I want to kind of cut in for just a second because I
yeah,
want to
yeah,
drill into some of the specifics, kind of like
mm-hmm,
in terms of timing, right?
yeah,
Because you could have been like, you know what, I'll sit in a big tub of bean dip. Let's do it tomorrow.
uh-huh,
Okay, so you could do it, and then somebody might hear about it. So,
yes,
how long ahead were you planning? Was this 6 months ahead of time? You start talking to the owner, and then 6 months later, you're actually doing it? Or was this a month and you're handing out flyers with a little bit of messaging? Hey, there's going to be something wacky in the parking lot on this time and day. Come see what it is. Or were you just ultra clear, hey, I'm going to sit in a tub of bean dip? Like how much of the gag did you give away? How far ahead of time, right?
yeah. So what we did was, we gave ourselves a month's time, and so that's a month worth of promotion. Once we finished the landing page for it, we gave ourselves a month to promote. And that's also strategically done, because it's like, we alerted the press just a week before it happened. So we really just wanted to go strong in terms of like, once the site was up, and I was very clear with that. I mean, in terms of like the promotional assets, we had the page 24hourbeandip.com, and we went and recorded a little short video that was just me outside of the restaurant saying, hey, I'm Hunter, and I'm going to be spending 24 hours in a tub of bean dip here, and so real easy. So we really didn't. You don't want to be vague. I think if you have a great headline, you really want to be aggressive with it and let people know. And so it just started off with me just letting the entire stunt community know, because Los Toros is also just a kind of like a big watering hole for the stunt community too. Back in the day, like, I mean, cowboys would literally like ride their horses up to the parking lot of Los Toros, tie them up, go in for a margarita, and then like ride off. So it was like, so it's very like congruent in the sense that I was like, all right, I'm gonna alert the stunt community. Then we went online and started running ads locally. That was how we were able to help them build their list, was by promoting the stunt and adding in that giveaway, because it's like the stunt's great. That was for me really, it's like the stunt is the traffic stopper. That's what gets people to say, okay, what in the heck is going on, with this?
Mm-hmm.
And and very like polarizing too. I mean, you think like, guy jumping in a tub of beans. I mean, who, it's like, okay, that's far out. I mean, you really have like, I mean, just within seconds, I mean, just like people who just love it and people who just hate it. And in seeing that, like, I mean, the bickering back and forth over this ridiculous act was just, I mean, it was amazing. And so then that helped like just drive up the advertisements that we were running online, making it even just, more shareable. And so people would see it, they would see the stunt, then they would opt in for oh no, I totally forgot to tell you what we did for the giveaway. I offered to give away a $200 gift certificate, which was the equivalent to 50 bowls of bean dip live from the tub. So I went live from the tub and gave that away. And so I think just like, when you build a campaign and you're helping out a business, I think, aside from just doing a stunt, because obviously a stunt, or an event, it definitely it takes a little bit more work. You definitely don't need to jump in a tub of bean dip for 24 hours to pull off a successful stunt either. But you can apply, I think, that same sense of outrageousness or surrealism to your marketing messaging to better attract people. Because I think, especially today where everyone's online, everyone's promoting their business online, you come to find that it's very easy just to kind of like follow the lead and say, okay, they're kind of doing this, so I'll do the same thing. And you end up finding that your advertising cost is just so expensive, because it's just, if you can really just like stop people and make them look at what you're doing because it's just different, you end up finding that it's more effective and it's cheaper too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, so you gave yourself a month and you were running ads locally, kind of geofencing your social media ads to the community, getting
Yes.
awareness up to the community, let that build, direct them to the landing page that the only thing they needed to do was sign up
Yes.
in order to get that giveaway that would be done at the day of the event.
Yes.
That's building buzz and visibility organically after the paid ads, and then about a week before the go day, that's when you're reaching out to all the newspapers and TV news saying, "Hey, in a week I'm going to be doing this stupid thing. It's a great
Mhm.
human interest story. You should probably come check it out." Right?
Yes, exactly. And on that note, so when it comes to the PR and the publicity, it's, when you can offer someone on a silver platter a guy who's spending 24 hours in a tub of bean dip, it's very easy to run that story. And I think it goes back to, if you want, if you find that press can help your business, you got to come up with something newsworthy. And so we built the story to play into that. While I was in the tub, we had a local tattoo artist come in and actually tattoo the restaurant's logo on my arm while I was soaking in the tub. And their logo is great too. It's like three, the restaurant's Los Toros, so it's three bulls who look like they've come from a long night at Los Toros, all crazy looking. So we got that. So what was kind of funny was like, we built this outrageous headline, and then we purposely came up with these other little gags within that to try and give the story even more legs. So we had a couple other like influencer types guests, come show up to the event, which added even more legs. And these are the things that, they might not make the first headline, but as the interest starts rolling, you then find out that like Fox would then like, come out with another article being like, oh, and he also got the restaurant's logo tattooed on his arm. And so after the day of the stunt, the it was one to I don't know if it was like the it might have been the day right after. I mean, if not, it was the second, where we really saw I mean, just the like, just the snowstorm of just like media craziness. We like within those days, we had like hashtag beans trending on Twitter with like the story from Reuters. Reuters was the crew that came out to cover the event, and then after that was released, it just it was crazy to see how long this just ridiculous story lasted in the news cycle. So we were able to get it in hundreds of different different outlets, and then it was like, I want to say it was nearly 2 months later that Kelly Clarkson had brought me on her show to talk about the gag, which was just, again, just completely surreal. And because she was doing a show, helping plug, local businesses here in Los Angeles, and gave us $1,000 for the gag. So I went back, you know, gave the money to Nick, and we put like a couple $100 in a piñata, and for the people who had birthdays that night, brought them up, and they were, they basically just what was it? It was like a tequila bottle piñata that they hit, and money just flew everywhere. So it was like the ridiculousness just doesn't stop. But to your point, in terms of accomplishing your goals, I firmly believe that outrageousness and entertainment is the number one way in which, if you want to reach the masses, that is the way to go.
That's great. So let me throw this curveball at you, which
Uh-huh.
is, from my experience, I've worked with the C-suite, like the CEO, entire C-suite of BP. I've spoken to
Uh-huh.
them. I've worked with State Farm, United Airlines, entertained the entire C-suite. Worked
Mm,
with Discovery, some of the most recognizable companies and brands on the planet.
yes.
Okay. One thing that I help my clients with is at trade shows, where I'm the guy in the booth that draws a crowd, entertains them while delivering the marketing message,
Uh-huh.
which kind of pre-qualifies leads and then hand them off to the sales team. So it's just a
Yeah.
machine that churns out amazing leads, right?
Yes.
I can't tell you the number of potential clients who hear, oh, he stands in the booth. Well, we don't do stuff like that. We're a respectable company. And in my head, I'm like, you're more respectable than BP, United Airlines, Discovery, and you're telling me that what they're doing is beneath you. Okay, well, I clearly can't talk sense into you. So, from your side of things, from stunts,
Yes.
when you're reaching out and kind of doing proactive outreach, and
Yeah.
you're saying, I'm a professional stunt person that helps your business get visibility, what kind of weird ways do people tell you no?
Yeah. It's I'm I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that there is this mentality within certain industries specifically that feel, we are, let's say we are a upper echelon luxury brand. We can't do something outrageous because people don't look at us that way. And that is something that I think also filters all the way down to, we're talking about like really trying to actually entertain people. You have a show that you are trying to entertain people with, which is amazing. I think that idea filters all the way down to even just, what would be a good example here? Even like just, like back in the day, like direct mail. And, there's for everyone listening, a just like a book recommendation, by Bill Glazer. It's called Outrageous Advertising. And he talks about this exactly, where, this is one of the most sought after marketers in the world. And what he would do, is when he would send out a direct mail sales letter, he would do it to where it would look like he's scribbling on a napkin. And and that letter alone would be the one that had the biggest return, because it was outrageous and it was different. I mean, we're talking about just like what like the letter is written on. And so he would basically try and explain the same thing to other business owners, who were, let's say, they ran like a suit business, or sold tuxedos. That's where Bill Glazer started. He and his father had ran like a shop where they would sell suits. And when all the other shops were going out of business, they stayed alive and well because their marketing messaging, their advertising was outrageous. It was ridiculous. It was different. And and I feel like, to tie that back into stunts, I feel that, like, you look at the biggest movies, the ones that draw the biggest crowds, the ones that are like the most, these blockbusters that are just outrageous with insane stunts, action packed, whether you like them or not, it's like, look who's there in the audience. It's like, those movies don't discriminate. You have, people who might say, oh, I wouldn't, do a marketing message like that. They would go and see that movie the same way in which, the people that they would be, judging, they would be in the same theater. So I just feel that, like, in terms of like what I would say, to those people, um, I haven't really come into a scenario, yet where someone has said. I mean, I think there's, like, in terms of what I do, there's definitely levels to, I would say, the outrageousness. I really try to build what we do with the business around, like, what their tone and their messaging is, but it definitely requires, like, doing something, like, something out there. But I just thought that was kind of interesting. I just feel like that idea does, you find it in, I mean, in just in all aspects of advertising and marketing.
Yeah, for sure. And a crossover that I was thinking about from my world and your world is a lot of the magic books and mentalism how-to books from
Mhm.
the 50s and 40s and that kind of a thing. There is always a segment on how to get press.
Yeah,
And a lot of it is walk into the newspaper office and borrow a man's hat and and that kind of thing. But
that's
there
awesome.
there were two stunts that always stood out as most interesting to me. And the first is predicting headlines.
Yes.
And you can create such a spectacle with something very simple like telling the newspaper what their headline is going to be in 2 weeks. They're like,
Hmm.
yeah, right. And then you do it, but you don't just do it. It's kind of like what you did with the bean dip. You write down your prediction in the presence of the mayor with the director or the police chief in the room too. So they watch you write it down. Then you get a notary to notarize it in front of everybody. You just
That's
fold it
awesome.
up, put it in an envelope, put the envelope in a lockbox, have the police chief lock it and keep the key, and then have the mayor sign it with indelible paint ink, and it just, you can add so many layers and involve so many people who just want to be a part of this weird thing that's going on,
Yes.
because it's just different, right? It's like, thank God, thank you for distracting me from the monotony of my life for just at least 5 minutes. That's great. So
Yes.
so you just build this whole spectacle, and you're involving the newspaper from day one by saying, "Hey, I'm going to tell you what you're going to do, so it's interesting to them." And then that's your visibility machine.
Yes.
And the other
Yes.
one is the same kind of thing where you get a sponsor, some local business that wants to have their name attached to a wacky idea, and you do a blindfolded drive. So you can drive through center of town. Back in the 40s, it was a lot easier to do really stupid stuff like that.
That's
nowadays you could, make a course out of orange cones in a big parking lot. It doesn't have quite the same pizzazz, but it's there. So those were my two favorite publicity stunts from the world of mind reading that have been kind of the bread and butter for decades, and I'm pitching it next month to a local business just to be a dancing monkey. I'm really looking forward to it.
I mean I love that, and I think I think anything that stops and entertains anybody for 5 minutes is a that's a moneymaker right there.
Yep. There's another one where you kind of do a Russian roulette of some version, whether it is a staple gun to the forehead or drinking poison or hiding a knife blade up under a cup and then you spin it and then slam your hand down on it, right? So there's all sorts of stupid things you can do to get visibility. But there's a hidden trap to the headline prediction, which
Hmm.
is what if there's a horrific tragedy?
Uh-huh.
And in one way, it's fantastic to profit off the suffering of other human beings because because it's gonna make the news. The
Yes.
drawback is, well, now you either start a cult or you're lambasted for not going to the authorities and helping stop this thing from
Yes. Yeah.
happening. So you kind of build in a it's kind of the genie's wish. You get exactly what you say you're going to do, but in the absolute worst way possible. Yeah.
Incredible.
So that I really really appreciate you kind of painting the picture of what you're doing with companies and how you made it there. So help me look to the future. What's on the horizon for you?
So we do well, yeah, I actually just got married 2 weeks ago.
Hey man, that's absolutely wonderful. Congratulations.
So just to keep the spirit of outrageous marketing alive, we've decided to have our wedding celebration this upcoming Halloween at a gun range out here. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to Terran Tactical. He's basically trains all the people in TV and movies, to shoot basically. And I thought it'd be a good headline: "Shots fired at Southern California wedding." So we have we have
Oh
that
man,
coming
I
up.
love that. I
Um,
love that. Oh man, that's just like man eating chicken. I love all that kind of carny sideshow stuff. That is fantastic.
so we got with that going on for fun, and then and that's an open invite to the entire stunt community too. So I was trying to kind of think, it'd be kind of funny to do like the the world's largest choreographed fight sequence between wedding attendees, really just for the visual. Because I know that they're all, coming with the firepower. So I just thought I'd love to be able to, bring in my wedding and look out and just see 1,000 people fighting each other.
That is fantastic. I love the way you dream.
That's soon to
Awesome.
be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my wife would say otherwise, but yeah, yeah. Other than that, we are working on. We do have some other, stunts in the works that I can dispel live here, but you will definitely be one of the first to know.
Outstanding. I am really, really looking forward to it. And we're coming up on sticking the landing. So I really do appreciate you sharing your time and your thoughts. So for the folks that are going, oh, yep, this is up my alley. I definitely want to know what's going on. Where should people find you?
Yeah, you can go and check out our marketing website. It's bullfrogagency.com. You'll know it when it's our logo is just a very roided out muscular frog. So you'll know where you're at when you see that guy. And then on there, you can just reach out directly. I do not charge for the calls. So if you want to talk all day long, feel free to hit my line.
Outstanding. I'll have that in the show notes and all that kind of official mumbo jumbo and such. So, dude, really, thank you. And is there anything else that you wanted to touch on that we didn't get to cover?
Um, I mean, well, one other thing I'll plug is if people want to go to bizarreheadlines.com, I actually last month I actually came down with the Delta variant, and it got me. And when I was out, or locked up for 2 weeks, I assembled 1,001 of my favorite completely outrageous headlines. So if you're bored and want to check that out, bizarreheadlines.com, pretty fun stuff.
Outstanding. Yeah, I personally am fascinated by that, so I'll be picking that up for sure. So,
Totally
dude,
free.
seriously, thank you much. And yeah, I'll give you a shout when this goes live. I publish every other week. I wanted to give myself a lot of time to actually live life instead of being a slave to the podcast. So I'll I'll give you a heads up when it goes live, and I'll put it into my cycle of shameless promotion.
I love it. Well, Jonathan, I truly appreciate this. I thank you for it. I thank you for your time. And I look forward to keeping you posted with more craziness.
Uh,
So I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.
Dude, thank you much. And yeah, keep on living, man.
Hey, Barack, and bye now.
All right, later.